Good evening. I would like to call this session of the August 22nd, 2002 regular session of the Carmel Clay School Board to order. Roll call, Madam Secretary. Thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I will now turn our attention to our district update, our spotlight on excellence, Mrs. Jennifer Green.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Green. I'm the principal at Mohawk Trails Elementary. I'm pleased to be here tonight. And I'm thrilled to be able to tell you about a young lady in our midst who attended Mohawk, and she's at Clay right now as a sixth grader. Her name is Lily Cooley. I had the pleasure of knowing Lily and as serving as her principal at Mohawk and for 4 years. And now she's grown up and she's a big sixth grader, like I said, at Clay. Lily is sweet and kind and cheerful and giving. And behind that smile, one would never know that she is battling juvenile arthritis daily. Lily is a patient and an advocate for a cure for this disease. She has said juvenile arthritis can be, quote, hard and sad, and I wanted to do something positive because of it and help other children. So she took a stand. Over the past 9 years, Lily has raised over $160,000 for the Arthritis Foundation and for Peyton Manning Children's Hospital. But that's not all. She also collects donations such as supplies for the children at the hospital, such as coloring books, puzzles, and games, and even forgoes birthday presents and asks for those donations instead so that she can help the children in the hospital to have something fun to do to distract them from the pain. I am so proud that she's being recognized by our Carmel Clay School Board and for her service to the community. And I'm just very proud to be called her principal at one point. We love you, Lily.
On behalf of the Board of Education, I'm your superintendent. Dr. B, nice to meet you. We wanted to give this to you. And I just wanted you to know that I read your story in the Current, and I thought it was fantastic. And I kind of keep track of my own little Hall of Fame, and you are automatic inductee into the Beresford Hall of Fame class of 2022. From just hearing your story, I think it's fantastic and fabulous. I don't know if you know this or not, but our theme for this year is to wag more and bark less. And I think you're a really, really special person because it would be very easy for you to be a barker and to take it. But you've gone the other direction, became a wagger because you want to make a positive difference in this world, even in the circumstances you've been given. So I just want to give you a fist bump. Thank you for being you, and congratulations. I think we ought to give her a standing ovation. I'm sure this lady wants to take a bunch of pictures. So I'm sorry, you're just going to have to get used to getting your picture taken a lot, okay? Okay.
Thank you. We invite you to stay for our meeting, but if you need to go, feel free. Thank you guys so much for coming, and congratulations, and thank you again for all the things that you do.
It is a school night, so
All right, we have no public comment tonight. We'll now move on to consent. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent items? Thank you, Mrs. Spannenberg. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We will now move on to our action items tonight, starting with the Hamilton County Center for Career Achievement, Dr. Michael Beresford.
thank you. At the last board meeting, we had a pretty extensive presentation by Dr. Dudley, and I filled in some gaps too. And I don't know if you have any more questions or anything, but we want to submit that recommendation that we sign on the agreement with the other Hamilton County school districts and start the process of working towards that Hamilton County Center for Career Achievement.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the Hamilton County Center for Career Achievement Recommendation Agreement? Thank you, Mrs. Spannenberg. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Is there any discussion? Ms. Spannenberg.
Yes, my big question is, once we have this better established, is this going to replace JEL? Because it seems like there are some opportunities there that we would not be able to have. Are we going to do both of them? What does that look like?
Yeah, first off, we don't have a whole lot of students that go to J. Everett Light. We do a lot of our career technical classes in Carmel High School. Matter of fact, most of them. And so we have a limited number of kids that go to J. Everett Light. But as part of the agreement that we would still, like if kids are in like a first year program at J. Everett Light, they would be able to finish their second year program, programming there. Also, as space allows, J. Everett Light will always take students in different programs that we don't have to offer. The idea behind this is to really use the resources within the county and Ivy Tech to see what kind of innovative things we can do with career technical education. And as you know, and if you went to the governor's luncheon, there was a lot of information about career technical training there as well. So it's kind of an exciting time, but this is the very start of this process, and I think it's going to be pretty special.
And my second question is, this is an agreement with all the different school systems. Has everybody else signed up as well? Are they all in? Where are we with that?
Yeah. I believe they're all in, maybe except for HSC. I think they may be working on that on Wednesday, but I'm not absolutely positive about that. But so we're either last or next to last. So.
Any other board questions, comments? All right, all those in favor of approving the agreement for the Hamilton County Center for Career Achievement, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We will now move on to 5.2, Adoption of Policy 2500, the Teacher Appreciation Grant. Dr. Dudley.
Yes, thank you. So each year, the board is required to review the Teacher Appreciation Grant policy that we have. This is money that we receive from the state to provide stipends for our highly effective and effective teachers. And the grant has not changed other than to update the year. The policy has not changed other than to update the year.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the adoption of Policy 2500, Teacher Appreciation Grant?
So moved. Oh, so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kirshner. A second? Thank you, Ms. Nelson-Williams. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to clarify, Dr. Early, so this, before us this evening, is just to change the policy, which is the year that we have to do every year as required by state statute, and this has nothing to do with what the dollar amount will be awarded from the state later in the year.
That is correct. We're just changing the year, and then we're required to upload this into our DOE online account, the approved policy each year. And then the amount will be decided by the state, and then we'll distribute it based upon the number of highly effective and effective teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? All those in favor of approving policy 2500, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We now have bid award for the Carmel High School Performing Arts Center, loose furniture and equipment. Mr. McMichael? I'll do all the change. I'll do the change orders together. Do you want the bid award? Do you want to do separate?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did that last
No,
meeting.
you're good.
Yes, this is a bid award for furniture, as noted in the report, and it's for the performing arts project that we're doing. It's actually also the front office, if you will, is included as a part of that furnishings. Because we're also doing, we did some renovations and reconfigurations in the office, which is obviously a very small part of that performing arts project.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve 5.3 bid awards for the Carmel High School Performing Arts Center? So moved. Thank you, Ms. Vandenberg. Second? Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Any discussion?
Yes, and it's not necessarily about this. It is about when we believe this will be completed so we can utilize the auditorium and the performing arts area. I know that is a burning question for several people, and I don't recall the specific timing. And I don't know if we've had some delays because of our ability to acquire what we need to do the project.
I can't tell you the time on the auditorium. The entire project is to be finished by next summer. And you're right, the auditorium date has changed at least once, I believe more than once. And some of it has to do, as you said, with lack of availability, really, of materials. And then there were also some changes that we made in the auditorium that pushed it out. But as you know, we're replacing all the seats, for example, so you can't put the seats in until something above the ceiling is finished. And so I believe it's later this fall, but I don't know the exact time. I'll follow up and send you guys an email and let you know.
I would add that Dr. Owen and Dr. Dudley and I were able to sneak in to the auditorium last week, and all of the sides on the faces, and they, did some, everything that's on the walls and the clouds are ready to be raised. It's all ready to go. They had a pretty significant delay on the seats, and they do have seats now. I don't know if they have all of them, but the two back sections are in now. And then once they get the carpet in, that's when they'll be able to start, finishing it off. So, but it looks great. It looks so much better than what it was. So it will be really excited to get that done. But we did talk to the kind of the main foreman of the job, and it's been really tough getting all the materials to piece that together. And they've been kind of stop and go. But there's a pretty good sized crew that were putting together seats when we were there. So I wouldn't think it'd be too far off.
Thank you. Any other? Mr. Kirshner?
Not really a question, but I just think it's important to know that the report that you sent us, Roger, said that there were 6 bids solicited and 3 responding, and that, as always, we take the lowest responsive and responsible bidder award as recommended by our contractors. So
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirshner. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of accepting the 5.3 bid award for the Carmel High School Performing Arts Center, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, we have 5.4 through 5.9 change orders. Do I have a motion to take all of these together? Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, 5.4 change orders for Carmel High School and Auditorium, Clay Center Elementary School, Hartman Baseball Complex and Murray Soccer Stadium, Carmel Elementary School, ESE Building Addition and Renovation, and the Carmel High School Performing Arts Addition and Renovations. Mr. McMichael.
So all of these projects are funded with bonds, and think all cases, the change order has been accomplished so as to not, stop the project. So I would recommend your approval for all of these.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? All right, all those in favor of accepting change orders 5.4 to 5.9, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We'll now turn to the discussion portion of our meeting tonight with the JEL material course fee changes. Dr. Amy Dudley.
Thank you. So this evening I have for discussion the course change fees for JEL. As you'll recall, last month I brought to you the change fees for all of our other courses that have changed for our materials fees. However, this one got lost in the mail, and so we got this on the board agenda tonight for discussion, and I'll bring it back to you next month for your approval.
Thank you, Dr. Dudley. Any questions or comments regarding the JEL material course fee changes? Mr. Kirschner?
I just think with all the abbreviations, this is J. Everett Light, which we just talked about before. So these are fees for welding and medical assistant and all that.
Yes, these are for our students that go to J. Everett Light. For this year, they'll have students starting their first year and students finishing out their second year.
Thank you. Ms. Spanberg?
The welding course, which I know we have students taking that, will we have that opportunity with Hamilton County, what do we call that again? The new program? Yes, the joint service agreement with the Hamilton County Career Center for Achievement. So, will that be an option?
So it may be an option where we'll have an opportunity for our students to take the welding courses here in Hamilton County. And then if not, then we can also look at offering that at JEL as space allows for our students. Right now we have, I believe, 6 students that are in the welding courses at JEL currently right now. So currently we're not planning on building out welding bays at Carmel High School. But yeah, we would obviously want to offer that opportunity for our students.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Just the one comment I have is I loved on our presentation at their last meeting, we talked about how, we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that the opportunities do exist for our kids. So if it is not offered at the Hamilton County Center, then we can, J. Everett Light, and we'll do whatever we need to. So I think that that's fantastic. All right. Thank you, Dr. Dudley. We will now move on to 6.2 discussion items, the Carmel Clay School handbooks. Dr. Thomas Ostrike.
Good evening, President Browning, Dr. Beresford, and members of the board. I would like to bring up our Director of Student Services and our top school safety specialist in the district, Mr. David Woodward, to the podium to provide an update on our school handbooks.
Thank you, Dr. Ostrike. So we updated all handbooks last year, coordinated everything, so everything is updated on the website, much easier. This year there are a few updates to the handbook for approval from the board. Number one, technology language was changed. Now it provides direct links to the CCS policy, so it is always up to date. Visitor language was amended to continue to not allow parent visitation to our lunchrooms or recess. We removed language from the secondary handbooks, clarifying the process for refusal of a drug screen in the event of possession of substances. And under possession of a firearm, we corrected an obvious gap to the existing language to include ammunition as a restriction from our school buildings.
Thank you. Questions from the board for Dr. Layla?
I know, could you touch on the rationale for the visitor language during lunch and recess?
Absolutely.
I know people have, that is a concern.
Yes.
So please.
Absolutely. So the restriction initially came from our health department under COVID. So it's been 2 years where we maintained that. And basically what happens during those 2 years, it pointed out just how significant an issue we had with lunch visitation in our buildings. It basically comes down to supervision. when you think about transition times and you think about what happens in a lunchroom, we have students lined up, we have students getting food, we have students getting to their seats, getting up, returning trays, restroom breaks, constant questions to the supervisors in that room. And with the amount of staff that we have available to supervise, it makes it difficult to then supervise people who are coming and going from our lunchrooms. And it's a difficult balance, but that's basically with the conversation we had with our administrators, we felt this was our best move to continue safety in that room.
Are there other opportunities for parents? If I still had elementary students, which I will say I just took my last one to college and
Yeah.
started today, what opportunities would I have to have lunch with them if I wanted to have lunch?
For sure. All parents have an opportunity to come and take their student and check their student out. They can take them for a picnic, they can do a drive-through, they can eat in the car, go out to eat, whatever, just get them back for instruction. I think what we're looking at, I don't want to restrict a parent's opportunity or parent access to their student, not at all. I do want to restrict other people's access to that student. Over the years, what we've had, just anecdotally, I can tell you a couple, and let me preface it by saying we have great parents. When we have great parents, we have a great community. But inadvertently and innocently, we've had instances where we've had parents go into the restroom with elementary children, go further into the hallways of our building without supervision, which can cause quite a panic with the way things are now. We have had parents bring in food from outside to share and innocently share a restricted item with a student with serious food allergies. We've had that happen. We have had parents take selfies and videos of their student in the lunchroom without probably knowledge that some of those students are on a do not publish list, which means those families do not want their kids in pictures, especially posted out on social media. And unfortunately, we've even had parents inject themselves into student disagreements and basically have a parent or adult to student confrontation. Now, I'll say these are not common instances. They're absolutely not common, but they're enough that our administrators overwhelmingly agreed that restricting lunch visitation actually creates a safer environment for our students.
Other board questions? Mr. Kirschner?
So I just want to clarify, so this decision is really based upon safety of all the students in the lunchroom and all of the other things that we do every single day with visitors and locking doors. And the issue is, and I guess maybe, can you explain the difference between being in the lunchroom and maybe volunteering in the classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. It comes down to supervision. In the lunchroom, it's very difficult to supervise the number of parents coming and going, their interactions with our students, and their actions while they're there. In the classroom, it's much more scripted, and it's much more direct with a teacher or an aide, and the ratio within that classroom. So it's much easier to really know what that visitor should be doing in there, and it's much more guided. And it really does come down to, again, not restricting parents' access to their kid. It's restricting someone else's access to their kid. And that's a basic, fundamental tenet of school safety.
And I think I'm correct in saying that when somebody comes into the school and is a volunteer, they have a full background check,
Absolutely.
which may be different than if somebody was just coming in for, to bring lunch.
We have actually required background checks for even lunch visitors
okay.
for the last several years.
Oh, okay. I wasn't unaware of that. Thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
I don't know that I have a question. I have been wrestling with this, but at the heart of it, I just want to say thank you for considering the safety of our students. I know we don't always get to opt on what we would prefer to do, but what we feel is necessary. So I know it can be really hard to make these choices, but thank you for caring about our students' safety.
Thank you. It's a very difficult balance, and it's one that we don't take lightly, and it's also one that we'll continue to revisit. You know, if over time we feel that a change needs to be made, we'll make that change.
Can you talk a little bit about, 'cause I don't wanna assume, the discussions with principals and the discussions now with our SROs who are in the buildings? Can you talk a little bit about those? Have you had those?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, prior to, really as the restrictions started to ease from COVID, we sat with our elementary administrators and said, okay, when do we plan to open up? And that's when the conversations came. Well, before COVID, we had this happen, we had this happen, we had this happen. So the restrictions kind of pointed out a gap that we had in school safety that we hadn't addressed. And everyone had their story. And so at that point, as a group, we decided, okay, let's maintain this and continue to see how this goes.
And the same with our SROs?
Absolutely.
And then this is really just talking about lunch and recess, which that makes sense. But this isn't gonna change any other volunteer opportunities that we have for parents coming in.
Correct. Lunch visitation is not really a volunteer opportunity. So it's pretty much unrelated. We want to maintain those volunteer opportunities. Frankly, we need them. We need volunteers for a lot of the events that occur. We want to be welcoming. We also need to balance it with school safety. And it just comes down to supervision. In that lunchroom, we're just not adequately prepared to supervise adults coming in, mainly because of the numbers and our capacity in the building.
Thank you.
I might just add, when we talk about supervisors in the lunchroom, I don't know if you've been in an elementary lunchroom, but the supervisors are like opening packages, and they're really good at putting the straw in Capri Suns, and they're really busy. And so it's not like there's one person there watching the whole crew, but they're just very busy with that and cleaning. So the supervision of watching adults and tracking where everybody's going is a difficult task. Schools have wrestled with this issue for years and years, and it is a difficult thing, especially when it's a tradition. But I had one email conversation with a parent who had concerns about this, and actually offered a solution and said, well, I could even take my child and eat outside if that would help. And first off, I don't get a lot of complaints without a solution being offered, which was kind of nice. But those are options that our families can do. We've had all kinds of different situations where we've been able to find an alternative place away from the big room, to help out a family that had like grandparents who came in from out of state who didn't have a background check and those sorts of things. But on a day-to-day basis, the way I like to describe it, and I don't know if Mr. Woodward will appreciate this or not, is it's a bad situation, and percentages wise, there probably won't ever be a problem. But if there is a problem, it's going to be a really bad problem, and it's going to be something where we'll question ourselves and say, why didn't we do all that we could, to secure the access in that setting? So that's kind of where a lot of this is coming from. But and I appreciate you wrestling with it because it's a tough topic. So thank you.
Any other board questions? All right, we're not taking action on this. This was just a discussion item. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the first reading of policy 6450, small purchases. Dr. Dudley.
Thank you. So this evening I bring to you a draft for policy 6450, which is small purchases. The House Enrolled Act 1320 amended the small purchases law with respect to the maximum amount of dollars spent annually for purchases of food from youth agricultural education programs. So this draft policy 6450 reflects the amendments to the law. Mr. McMichael reviewed the policy and made those updates that you see before you.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion? Oh, we're just talking about it. See, I'm good. All right. Any questions for Dr. Dudley? All right. I think we're good then. Thank you for keeping me on track. All right. We will now move into reports. Staff and Student Services. Dr. O.
Thank you very much. This evening, I'm going to provide a CCS staffing update and then finish up with our teacher evaluation results from the 21-22 school year. So as you know, there are ongoing headlines regarding teacher shortages and the struggle to fill open positions in education and elsewhere. Hiring has certainly become a challenge in almost every industry and job seekers can really be selective on which positions they choose. Wanted to share our staffing successes and challenges this evening with you all, as well as the community, so that our families and the board can better understand how national headlines correlate with what is currently happening in our schools. So let's start with teachers. So Carmel Clay Schools currently has, at this time, I always preface with that, currently has all of our district teaching positions filled for the 22-23 school year. We are fortunate to be a destination district for many teachers in the state and in the country. CCS has very low turnover with our teaching staff, thanks partly to our outstanding leadership, working environments, supportive association, as well as the benefits we offer. If a CCS teacher does resign, it is typically for personal reasons or retirement, and rarely is it because the teacher wants to join a neighboring district. Our pay and our benefits are highly competitive for the state and the county compared to many other schools. Additionally, we continue to see many applicants for all of our elementary teaching positions, no matter what time of the year it is. And however, hiring special education teachers, and that's amongst all levels, our science and math teachers at the secondary level across the state has become increasingly challenging. From May to June, however, we maintain a steady stream of applicants. However, as the school year and the start of the school year approaches, starting in July, hiring is certainly challenging at the secondary level. Let's talk about our administrators. So we have extremely low turnover rates with our administrators throughout the district, and vacant positions for any administrator role garner a lot of applications. For example, we had an elementary assistant principal opening at Carmel Middle School or Elementary School this school year, and we had close to 150 applicants for that position. Let's talk a little bit about our classified staff next. So we're going to start with substitute teachers. So when we have one of our teachers that goes on maternity leave or a medical leave for a period of time, those short-term and long-term teaching positions are getting tougher and tougher to fill. And so we consistently have teachers that go on maternity leave throughout the year, and so those positions pop up throughout the year. We are able to hire some of our retired teachers back to fill those roles. We are able to hire some of our instructional assistants who are currently in our building, and oftentimes we're able to hire some of our substitute teachers that are licensed and able to fill into those roles. When we do that, though, that depletes our substitute teacher pool. It depletes some of our IAs in the building, as well as those other positions. So it's a cycle, and we want to continue to fill those day-to-day substitute teachers. Because as Kelly Hackett, our substitute teaching coordinator, hires those in weekly, our substitute teachers, they get gobbled up very quickly for those instructional assistance positions, as well as our short-term and long-term teaching positions. So we are doing well with our substitutes, but we want to continue hiring substitute teachers so that once that pool depletes, we can continue to fill it throughout the year. So if anyone's out there and would like to become a substitute teacher, we would love to have you. Let's talk about transportation. So, as is the case across the country, we have a critical shortage of bus drivers and bus aides. We have had to adjust, as you know, our bell times and create no bus zones for each school to maximize the number of students that we can transport. Though, even with managing fewer riders, transportation staffing remains a challenge. Applicants must complete the necessary licensing and test before driving students, and the barriers to entry to the position can certainly deter applicants, as I've shared in the past. We encourage anyone interested in driving a bus to give it a try. We always say, As Dr. B always says, if you can drive an SUV on the Carmel roundabouts, you can operate a bus. And so we proudly offer competitive rates and paid training for our bus drivers. So we would love to see many, many, many more bus drivers. On a positive note, for this school year, we had a very small number of bus drivers retire or resign, and we were able to add to our bus driving fleet so that we were able to decrease the number of those double routes. So we're moving in a positive direction, but we would love to get back to where we were before the pandemic. Let's talk instructional assistants. This currently, along with our bus drivers, is the most need that we have to fill positions: instructional assistants and bus drivers. And so we are in immediate need of instructional assistants in both general and special education. There are multiple opportunities available currently at most Carmel Clay schools. Positions can be full day, they can be part-time, and IAs are essential resources for our school staff to provide the necessary support for all students. And then finally, let's talk about our EduCare for our littles, as well as food service. So we are in fairly good shape with these positions at this time. However, we are still hiring select positions in food service and EduCare. If interested in these positions, we encourage applicants to reach out for more information. So all of this information I just shared with you is currently on our website. So you can go to our website on the news tab, and everything I just shared is laid out there for you. But I certainly wanted to share kind of a current update to where we are with staffing. We have lots of successes, lots of positives, but we're still having challenges, as most school districts are experiencing throughout the country. And finally, I would like to share our 21-22 teacher evaluation results. This is required per Indiana code, and so they're very similar to last year. We've had a little bit of fluctuation, but not much. So highly effective, we had 81% of our teachers that were rated highly effective. We had effective, we had 18%, and then needs improvement or ineffective, we had less than 1%. And at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. O. Questions from the board?
Well, thank you, Dr. Ostrike, for that very informative report. It's good to hear with what we see in the news that Carmel is doing well. I think it's important for the rest of our community and the rest of the state to realize that we do have a crisis here in education, especially with teachers and bus drivers. You know, we're very proud of what we can offer teachers, and the fact that, like you said, that we are a destination. And I think it's important to know, why we may not be the highest starting salary, that with benefits and over a career, that, you know, teachers relative compared to other districts can do well here. I also think it's important to know, and this is my personal opinion, you know, teachers are not compensated for what we ask them to do. That's something that's beyond the powers of this board or this district, but I think it's important to share, and I think it's important to thank all of our employees for everything that they do every single day to make this district run so smoothly, and to handle 16,000 kids, getting them on the bus to school, have their meals, and back home. And just want to give a shout out to all of our great employees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Louise?
Yeah, thanks for that update. Can you maybe share a little bit of an update on how we're doing with our diverse staff and retaining them? I know one of our desires is to have a certified staff and administrative staff that reflect the population that we serve. So could you just give us some cliff notes on how that's going?
Absolutely. As far as retention, we're doing very well. So with diverse staff, with all staff really, and especially our certified staff and our teachers, we probably have one of the lowest turnover rates in the state of Indiana. So that's very positive. I will say, as far as hiring a diverse group of teachers, we're moving in a very positive direction. So 12% of our new hires do have diverse racial backgrounds, and so we're excited about that. We know that we can continue to improve upon that number, but we also know that we hire the best, and we're excited to hire the best, and we're excited to bring on board a group of great diverse teachers that can work with our students. So we're moving in a very positive direction.
Thank you. Any other board questions or comments? Ms. Spanberg?
My questions have more to do with the teacher evaluation results. I'm quite excited that we do have 81% highly effective. How many staff were evaluated? That 1% or less than 1%. How many have we identified? Do those teachers have a mentor that they're working with to help bring them up and support them? And I'm also interested in knowing, how many of these teachers, or what percentage of teachers were in the new pilot program for the new evaluation system, and how are we transitioning to that?
Okay, I
Lots
will
of questions.
try to get all of those, and if I miss one, please feel free to ask again. So we had 1,007 teachers that were evaluated this school year. That less than 1% then is less than 10. A lot of the teachers that are identified as needs improvement or ineffective, a lot of them don't come back. And so based upon that, then any that do remain, we do provide supports to. And so they work directly with their administrator on that. The pilot program from last year, so this is the first year we're transitioning to the Marzano focused teacher evaluation model, and so that's new this year. However, we did run a pilot last year, and approximately 80 teachers were a part of that pilot. With the focused teacher evaluation model, it combines the best of what we have and the best of the pilot. And so all of our elementary teachers will be on that starting this year, and they have already started that up. So, and then the plan is for our middle school to start next year, and then the high school the year after that.
Our elementary teachers who will be evaluated on the new program, what professional development have we provided to them so they are fully aware and engaged?
Every single elementary teacher was trained this summer. They had a half day of training, and we brought one of the research presenters from the Marzano Research Institute in and provided that training. Dr. Dudley and I were a part of all of those trainings this summer, and so every teacher was trained. Our administrators were trained for 3.5 days, and so they provided that training. The most exciting part of going to the new model is in late September and early October. We're doing side-by-side coaching with our evaluators so that we can ensure the reliability, ensure that our evaluators are consistently evaluating across all of our buildings. And so it's a heavy task to be able to do that, but we want to make sure everyone is consistent with the evaluation they're providing. And with the new model, that should make it easier across the board.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this new process.
Thank you. And Dr. Dudley wanted to add a piece to it.
In addition for our teachers, in addition to the half day, we also are providing ongoing training throughout this school year, and next school year we'll continue to incorporate the FTEM model with the professional development we do and show teachers how it connects with their practice. So we're working through our lead teacher structure that we have, where we'll continue to look at the different elements and provide that ongoing training. And then our administrators also are providing that ongoing training through our teachers. So it's not just a half day for our teachers, but it's continuous.
And the evaluation model is a research-based model, and it also serves as an instructional model, as Dr. Dudley was sharing.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move on to our monthly financial update. Mr. Roger McMichael.
Thank you. So we're through the month of July, and starting with our education referendum and rainy day funds. When you compare well, in July, this July, our ending cash balance was 11.1 million. When you compare that to last year, it's $6 million more. Last year was 4.5 million. However, it's much closer than it first appears. This year we have $2.4 million in the rainy day fund. Last year we had just paid out the stipend, if you remember, to our staff, and so essentially the rainy day fund at that point had almost a zero balance. And so that's one big factor. And then the second one is last year, July was a 3-pay month, and so when our pay is about $3 million each pay. And so when you adjust for that, we're still ahead of last year, about $1.2 million, which is about where we would expect to be.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'll respond to any questions you have there, and then I'll go to the
Okay.
operations.
Anything?
Sorry.
Can we go back to the current budget? Thank you.
Yep.
And so I guess the question, Roger, is are we seeing any fluctuation in property tax numbers, or is it consistent to what you'd expect?
It's what we expected. Of course, now, we'll not receive property tax again until, November and December. But it's about what we anticipated. And sometimes we hear comments about, you're getting a lot more money because the assessed value went up, and that is true, that the assessment of the property does impact how much money we receive. On the other hand, the reason it's going up is because inflation is 10 or 11%. And so we need more money, in other words, to pay for the same things that a year or two ago were 10 or 20% less money. School buses, for example, are going up 30% this year, and which far exceeds, the average, the overall inflation rate. But, as you know, in certain sectors of the economy are affected by the inflation more than others.
Thank you. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Got off my program there. Okay, so now the operations fund, it's not as impactful, but this fund does have some salaries, mostly, a number of our classified staff. So that 3-pay month does have some impact, but we did in July of this year at 5 million, and you can see last year it was 4.6. So as I've said before, trying to compare one year to the next in this fund is not as reliable because of the way we use these funds for facilities and so forth. It's not primarily salaries, in other words. So it's the expenditures depend on kind of what we're doing, and so they can vary quite a bit over the course of the year. And with that, I'll answer any questions or try to respond to questions that you might have for this fund.
Thank you. Any other board questions on this? All right.
Okay, thank
you,
you.
Ms. McMichael. All right, we will now move on to board members' report. A legislative update, Mrs. Spannenberg.
Thank you. As you know, both Jennifer and myself are the legislative liaisons for this year, and I will provide a brief update, very brief update. We have not had our meeting yet. So next Monday, Jennifer and I are meeting with Dr. Beresford to discuss where we've been and the direction we're going to be going. We are going to be entering the long session. So we do have some time. Traditionally, we meet with our legislators this fall. We reach out to them, have great conversations, and really find areas that we can help them and work alongside our legislators to provide them with feedback on how different types of statute would impact Carmel Clay schools and public education in general. I will be attending ISBA as our legislative liaison, and we will learn in October what the Indiana School Board Association's legislative agenda is for this upcoming year. Like I said, it's a long session. It's the budget session, so there will be a significant number of statutes that are going to impact the bottom line. So we need to be prepared to advocate for public education and statutes that align with our guiding principles, as well as, well, I guess all of our students, yeah, and our strategic plan. That being said, we'll follow the process we followed before. We will find areas of mutual agreement that we can certainly provide feedback. We will update the website. Jennifer, Dr. B, and I will really hammer that out at our meeting next Monday, and then we'll bring to the board in September some meatier information about how we're going to proceed this upcoming year.
Thank you. I do have a question. How is, with our legislative letter that we did the past couple years, how has the response been from our legislators on that?
Overall, it's been very positive. We have met with every legislator. In fact, we've met with legislators beyond the ones that impact Carmel Clay schools. But part of that is because our reach is much greater. So the Ways and Means Committee, we will send our letter to those leaders as well. And I think as we have continued to develop that relationship over the years, our legislators really turn to Dr. Beresford when there is a question and concern, or I will receive a phone call or an email. I know Scott Baldwin has reached out directly to me to ask, how is this going to impact? What does this look like? So I am very pleased that we have continued to foster that relationship and that our legislators look to us for some feedback.
Thank you. Any other board questions or comments? Okay. Carmel Clay Parks, Mrs. Jackson.
Thank you. I don't really have an update from the parks at this time, but thanks for asking.
No, absolutely. All right, Dr. Beresford, Superintendent's report.
All right, first I want to thank Dr. Ostrike for that report, and to do another little commercial that I think a lot of times a barrier to trying an IIA position or even trying a bus driver position is just the thought that what if I mess up or something like that. And I want you to know that our HR department has taken great strides to really come alongside folks, along with our transportation department and our instruction and learning department. And we walk right beside you and make sure you are well-trained and ready. You will never get behind a bus, the wheel of a bus, until they're absolutely positive that you are competent and confident to drive that bus. And the same thing with being an instructional assistant. Same thing with being even a substitute teacher. Our onboarding is you've really upped our game here in the last couple of years. So I don't want anybody out there to hesitate from giving it a go because you think, oh, I don't know if I could do this or not. We won't put you in a position where you will fail. We'll always work till you're confident and competent. Also, want to just, my report is relatively short, especially for me. So you guys will get a break tonight. But I wanted to just start out with the back to school opening. I got to tell you, I was a little nervous. I always have a little bit of anxiety about something weird will happen. But with all the construction and roundabout construction and just all kinds of things going on, I was had a little angst going into the year. And I can't tell you how smoothly the opening went, K-12 across this district. I had several principals who have been doing the job a while say this was the best start of school they've ever had. And I just, it seems like there's like a really good amount of enthusiasm going around. And when I made it to 11 schools, 12 schools on the first day, and then picked up a couple the next day. And to every school, there was just good things happening. One of the most remarkable things, because I'm kind of a nerd about stuff like this, but I walked across the street in the crosswalk of the roundabout in front of Carmel High School, and there were no cars at 9 o'clock. And so I couldn't believe it. And I don't know if we did such a great job communicating that people were actually scared to drive over there because they're afraid of gridlock or something. But it was remarkably smooth how that went. because there's a lot of moving parts there for sure. So kudos to the staff, the building administration, the teachers, the whole team, because that doesn't happen, on accident. That's combined best efforts of thousands of people that put that together for that first day to work. And then our goal is to replicate that, 179 more times. So anyhow, kudos to the team. Guys knocked it out of the park. And our fall sports are back in action. So football kicked off literally on Friday night, and I hope you got to see it. If you weren't there, if you saw the video, we had skydivers skydive in with the American flag and land on the field, and it was just super cool. And everything was just awesome. The place was packed. It was kind of like the old days where everybody was there, and the only thing that went wrong was the score. But we were playing a very talented team that we do battle with first game every year from Trinity. It's a private school in Louisville that is just a powerhouse in Kentucky. And it was a great, great game. And but the bad guys won. But they're not bad guys; they're just great athletes. But I think our team will learn a lot from that and be able to move forward and be successful. Also, volleyball is in action. Boys and girls cross country, which is the greatest sport in the world, in case you didn't know. Boys tennis, boys and girls soccer, girls golf, and then unified bocce is in action already, and then unified flag football. So there's a lot of fall sports are in full throttle right now, getting going, and it's always exciting and fun to watch kids do what they love to do. My third bullet is I'm happy to announce, if you missed it, that Katie Overbeck, who is the Carmel Clay Schools Teacher of the Year, is now in the top 25 of the Indiana State Teachers of the Year. So Katie's climbing the ranks there. So the next step would be to make the top 10. So we're all pulling for Katie. She's an amazing educator, and we're fortunate to have her represent our school district in that competition there at the state level. Bell ringer, you've already met her. I got to tell you, Lily is my hero. She's an amazing little human being, and it's kind of like I kind of said my spiel because I wanted to say it to her while she was here because I knew that it was a school night and she wouldn't be here at the end. So, but our theme, we want to wag more and bark less. Lily's one of those kids that's fighting obstacles every day, and she's chosen to not let that negative, bring her down. Instead, she's flipped that and to make it a positive, to do something for others who are in her same situation. And that's how we make the world a better place, is when kids realize, that regardless of their situations, they're going to do what they can to make it better for other people. So she chose to WAG, and like I said before, she's automatically in the Beresford Hall of Fame, and I'm just glad there's kids and families like that out there that take those adversities and work through them and try to do some good. So Lily, you're the bell ringer tonight, and you're in the Hall of Fame, and we are very, very proud of you. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our upcoming meetings, September 5th is Labor Day, no school. Our September workshop session is September 12th, and our regular session is September 27th. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.